Education is a basic human right, but in some parts of the world, it is still a luxury. VOA's Zoe Leoudaki has the story.
More girls are receiving secondary education now than ever before. But still, there are 10 countries in this world where going to school is dangerous or just very difficult. 6 of those nations are in Africa.
The problem is that there are areas of the continent that continue to be stubbornly difficult to advance. We did some research looking at secondary education enrollments for girls, child marriage rates, and attacks on girls who are seeking an education. And not surprisingly, there are places with poor governance, ongoing instability and fragility, and very sort of complex social patterns. So Somalia and Chad and the DRC and the Central African Republic and Nigeria and Niger are all sort of at the top of the list globally.
Presently in developing countries, 95 girls are enrolled in secondary education for every 100 boys. In these 6 African nations, the figures are as low as 46 girls for every 100 boys.
The returns on investment to secondary education for girls are huge, both for the girl herself. She's more able to participate in the economy, but also there's wonderful ripple effects. Girls are more sort of confident and able to navigate systems such as hospital systems or ask for assistance. So in fact, girls who have access to secondary education are much less likely to die in childbirth themselves or have children who die under the age of 5. And then girls who go through secondary education are much more likely to invest in their communities and families. And so it brings economic development back to their communities and families. And lastly, they're much more likely to have children who will go on to school and finish school.
There are a few simple steps these countries can take to ensure that more girls attend school.
One of the things that I think is really important for all of those countries is trying to tackle the problem of safety in school and delivering services to people who are displaced or in conflict.
Child marriage is another reality that hinders the advancement of girls in school.
There's things such as providing cash or food incentives for girls if they, attend school regularly and pass their courses and go on from year to year, trying to offset that economic barrier. There's also interesting work done by a colleague of mine, Madalo Samati, who works at CRACOM in Malawi. One of the things she's doing is working with the traditional leaders in Malawi, particularly in the rural areas, who are the ones who oversee the sort of child marriage norms and traditions, and really talking to them about why it's so much better for girls to stay in school longer and have delay the marriage ceremonies. And that's really working. She's seen a lot of success.
Rebecca Winthrop stressed that overall, Africa has made tremendous progress in girls' education.
Tanzania has been one of the countries who's improved rapidly over time in terms of getting kids into school, all kids, really trying very hard to get all kids into school. And it's a central priority of the government from the president on down. Education is really key. They're now trying to work on improving the learning and the quality. You're looking at South Africa, they have pretty good education statistics when it comes to access, but surprisingly don't do very well at all when it comes to quality and learning.
Researchers agree that educating girls can have transformative effects for their family and community.
Well, Zoe Leoudaki joins us now, and she has a special guest from New York to talk more about education in Africa. Hello, Zoe.
Thank you, Vincent. Joining us now from the United Nations with more on this topic is Nora Fyles, head of the United Nations Girls Education Initiative. Ms. Fyles, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you very much. It's a delight for me to be with you today.
The Girls' Education Initiative has been spearheading change in developing countries and among them in Africa. How is Africa doing as a whole in making sure girls receive secondary education?
Well, Africa and around the world, as we know, enormous progress has been made at the primary level, both for boys and for girls, to ensure that there is greater access for both boys and girls. Now, at the secondary level, however, the story is different for Africa. In fact, Africa has the world's lowest rate of school enrollment at the secondary level at around 48%. And in fact, not a lot has changed over the last 10 years. It's remained quite stagnant.
How is the girls'
And in fact, if the trends, so I was just going to go on to say, and that the trends, if they do not change, there will be quite a long time before all girls across Africa have access to lower secondary school. And the UNESCO has estimated that it will not be until 2075 that all girls in Africa have access to lower secondary school. And that's about 30 years after boys will achieve the same goal of universal secondary school at the lower secondary level.
That's actually shocking statistics. But how is the Girls' Education Initiative trying to address the main barriers that prevent girls from going to school and actually staying in school?
Well, we heard some of the main barriers in the earlier clip that was presented by Rebecca Winthrop. And I just wanted to reinforce, though, the main barriers which she identified. One is the cost of going to school, basically the fees, and all of the other costs which make it very difficult for families to make that decision of who will go to school and to give priority to girls. There are all the social challenges and the social accepted behaviors and expectations of young women in society, of adolescents in school, which make it difficult for girls to attend. So more work for them at home, an expectation that girls should be married rather than going on to school, and a high level of, therefore, of early marriage, early pregnancy, and the violence that girls tend to experience in school, on the way to school, and around school. All of those issues remain considerable challenges faced by girls and their families. The UN Girls' Education Initiative is a global partnership, and we basically do three things. We advocate at the country level and at the global level for issues of relevance to girls and to girls' education, and support gender equality in education. We do that through, when I speak at large events, global events, when we support the UNESCO Global Monitoring Report to do an excellent job at reporting on progress in towards our goals in girls' education and gender equality.
Ms. Fyles, we have to end our segment now. We've run out of time. I want to thank you so much for coming to Africa 54, and I want to wish you good luck with your work. Back to you, Vincent.
Thank you very much.
Well, thanks a lot, Zoe.